You can call me Jonah. It's not my real name, but it suits the life I've lived, one spent drifting between continents and currents, always returning to the sea as if something in me belonged to the water more than to land. I'm a marine scientist, and for most of my life, I was an atheist. A firm one. Not the angry kind, just convinced that nothing existed beyond what could be measured, tested, or proven. This story is inspired by true events. It's told with deep respect for all faiths, and meant only to share one man's journey toward finding peace in Islam. From which country are you watching this video? Subscribe to this channel if you love Islam. I grew up in a household where intellect was the closest thing to a religion. My parents were academics, logical, disciplined, sober-minded people who believed the world ran on principles, not prayers. I absorbed that worldview without resistance. To me, God was a comforting idea made by humans afraid of uncertainty, nothing more. And honestly, for many years, that explanation made perfect sense. Science felt like home, predictable, rational, beautiful in its precision. The ocean became my sanctuary, long before I even knew the word belonged to sacred places. I spent my adulthood on research vessels, waking before dawn, calibrating instruments, lowering sensors into the deep. My world was graphs, spectrums, chemical readings, and the endless hum of machines. While others slept, I loved standing alone at the bow, staring into the blackness under the ship. Here, in the middle of nowhere, everything felt honest. Nature didn't hide itself. It didn't pretend to mean anything. People often told me the ocean made them feel God. I would smile politely and say, "No, it's just physics, pressure, light, biology." I never meant to offend them. I just didn't see what they saw. I saw systems, patterns, flaws, and marvels that didn't demand a creator. And yet, even atheists have quiet moments they don't talk about. Like when a blue whale surfaced beside our vessel, its eye as deep and silent as an ancient library. Or when the sea lit up with bioluminescent plankton, each step on deck leaving a glowing footprint. Or when currents moved with such elegance that even chaos felt choreographed. I would call it coincidence. I would call it nature. But sometimes, the word coincidence felt like a thin blanket against a cold question. On our most recent expedition before everything changed, we were more than 300 kilometers offshore. The morning looked harmless, clear sky, calm waves, soft winds, the kind of day any scientist would love. I was checking the depth sensor readings when I noticed something odd. A sharp drop in pressure. Too sharp, too sudden. I frowned, tapped the instrument, recalibrated. Still the same numbers. I felt a strange heaviness in my chest, something I hadn't felt in years, almost like a warning. But I ignored it. Of course I ignored it. The afternoon arrived with a quiet shift, a breeze that felt colder, a sky that lost its brightness a little too fast, waves that began rising in slow, deliberate breaths. The air pressure readings dropped again, this time violently. My stomach tightened. When I looked toward the horizon, I saw it. A wall of clouds, thick and black, crawling across the ocean as if pulled by invisible hands. The sky, moments ago, a soft blue, had turned a shade of iron. The sea churned with a restless energy. I felt uneasy. Not scientifically, humanly. The crew rushed into motion, shouting, tying ropes, sealing equipment. Someone ran past me, yelling, "Storm's coming fast! Get inside!" But I stood frozen for a moment, my hands gripping the railing. The wind howled in a strange pitch, like a warning, whispered through clenched teeth. And for the first time in my life, I felt fear that had nothing to do with logic. It felt like the ocean, this familiar, indifferent companion, was suddenly alive with intention, as if something vast had turned its gaze toward me, as if the storm was not just weather, but a message. The first wave slammed into the hull. The ship lurched hard to the right. I slipped, hitting the deck with my shoulder. Shouts filled the air, urgent, panicked. The world twisted into a chaos of spray and steel. Another wave crashed over the bow, drenching everything. The sky roared. The sea rose like a living thing preparing to strike. And there, in the heart of the storm's first breath, in that violent, helpless moment, something inside me cracked. Not belief, not faith, just a raw, instinctive plea I could not swallow back. Please, not yet. The moment the words, please, not yet, slipped out of me, another wave slammed into the bow with the force of a falling mountain. The entire ship roared under my feet. Metal screamed. My breath tore from my lungs. I scrambled up, my fingers trembling as they clawed at the railing. The deck tilted again. Rain came sideways hard, needle-sharp, punishing. It soaked me instantly, blinding me. I had survived dozens of storms in my career, but this one felt different. As if the ocean had shed its scientific predictability and revealed another face entirely wild, ancient, and unrestrained. "Jonah, get inside!" Someone shouted from behind me, but the wind swallowed his voice before I could locate him. Another wave crashed over the deck, pushing me to my knees. Cold water slapped my skin, stealing the heat from my body. I forced myself upright again, fighting the tilt of the ship. My heartbeat thundered louder than the storm, erratic, terrified, raw. For the first time in years, data couldn't save me. Logic couldn't shield me. There was no instrument to explain what was happening. I felt small, smaller than I ever had, insignificant in a way science never prepared me for. The ocean heaved again. A monstrous wave rose before us, taller than any crest I had ever seen. It towered like a dark wall, swallowing the horizon, swallowing the world. For a heartbeat, its shape held black, enormous, seemingly suspended in time, and then it collapsed toward us. I truly thought, this is it. This is how my life ends, not in a lab, not among peers, but here, devoured by the very world I thought I understood. The impact threw me across the deck. My shoulder hit metal. A burst of pain shot down my arm. My lungs filled with salt water. My vision blurred. Through the chaos, I felt the ship groaning, shuddering as if breaking apart. Alarms blared from the control room. The deck lights flickered like dying stars. Someone screamed my name again, but it was swallowed by the monstrous howl of wind. I forced my body toward the nearest railing, dragging myself inch by inch. My fingers slipped. My nails tore. My breath came in violent, uneven bursts. Every second felt borrowed. Every heartbeat felt final. Another wave slammed us sideways. This time, I lost my grip entirely. My feet lifted off the deck air, replacing the ground beneath me. I felt weightless, suspended between life and death. Then gravity punched me back down, slamming me into the wet metal. My head rang. I couldn't think clearly anymore. Fear flooded every corner of my mind, raw, primal, honest. And then something strange happened. Not outside, inside. A thought rose in me, unbidden, unwelcome, impossible for someone like me. What if I'm not in control? What if I never was? Another wave hit. The ship lurched. My body slid across the deck again. I grabbed a pipe, holding on with trembling hands. My breaths came in shallow, gasps. Panic flooded me thick, suffocating. I could feel my heart hammering against my ribs, desperate, pleading without words. And then from the deepest part of me, from a place I didn't know existed, a whisper surfaced, not spoken aloud, not shaped by lips, a thought, a confession, a surrender. If something is out there, help me. I froze. Even in the storm, that moment felt louder than the thunder, because I knew I had never said anything like that in my life. I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in fate. I never prayed, not even once, not even as a child. But in that instant, with the ocean clawing at the ship, with death circling like a hungry shadow, my disbelief cracked, just slightly, just enough for that plea to escape. The storm raged on, merciless and blinding. But something new pulsed under the terror, a thin thread of humility, a painful, awakening awareness that I was not the master of my universe, not the author of my existence, not the unshakable atheist I claimed to be. Another wave crashed. I braced myself, gripping the pipe so hard my fingers went numb. The ship dipped dangerously low. Water flooded the deck. People shouted. Chaos reigned. And I, Jonah, the man who trusted only in science, found myself whispering again, this time out loud, tears mixing with rain. Please, don't let me die. The wind swallowed my words, but they felt real, too real, more honest than anything I had ever said. As the storm dragged us deeper into its violent heart, as the ship fought to survive, as my own certainty shattered, I felt something shifting inside me, something terrifying, something sacred. The storm reached its peak like a living monster, swallowing the world in black water and rage. Waves towered over the ship, each one rising higher than the last, like fists of the sea crashing down with violent intention. Lightning split the sky into jagged white scars. Thunder rolled over us like a collapsing mountain. And I, Jonah, the atheist, the scientist, was barely holding on to a single metal bar as the ship shuddered beneath me. My arms burned, my fingers slipped. My mind screamed with one truth I never wanted to face. I could die here. Not in theory, not in fear, but in the next wave, the next slip, the next unlucky moment. And there was absolutely nothing I could do. A wall of water slammed into the deck, nearly ripping me away. My knees smashed against steel, the taste of blood mixed with salt water in my mouth. My vision blurred from the rain and the sting of tears. I didn't even realize I was crying. I wasn't thinking about my research, or my reputation, or the years I'd spent building an identity made of logic and certainty. All I could think was, I don't want to die. Another wave rose in front of us, larger than the others, bigger, darker, as if the ocean had saved something special just for me. One final, merciless blow. The ship climbed its side, trembling violently. For a moment we hovered at an impossible angle. Crew members tumbled across the deck like rag dolls. Someone screamed, "Hold on!" but their voice vanished into the storm's roar. And then we dropped, straight down, into the abyss between waves. My grip tore free. My body lifted weightless, then smashed against the deck. Pain exploded in my side. I tried to stand, but my legs gave out. My hands slipped in the water, pooling around me. I crawled, coughing, choking, shaking. The cold seeped through every layer of clothing, turning my bones into ice. I thought of my parents, my unfinished research. Every arrogant moment, I believed I was in control. A thought rose through the chaos, quiet but sharp as a blade. If I die, what was the point of all of it? No answer came, just the storm, furious and unrelenting. I tried to drag myself toward the door leading inside, but another wave crashed down, flipping me onto my back. Water covered my face. I couldn't breathe. My lungs convulsed, desperate for air. In that drowning blur, my thoughts twisted into a single, terrified plea. God, if you're real, help me. I froze. Even as water rushed past my ears, something inside me went still. I didn't believe in God. I had never believed. Yet those words, they weren't planned. They weren't logical. They came from a part of me I didn't know existed. Lightning cracked overhead, illuminating the sea in a blinding flash. And that's when it happened. The moment that broke me. The moment science couldn't explain. In the middle of the storm, in the middle of chaos, the world fell silent for a heartbeat not around me, but inside me. A voice not external, not heard, with ears rose from within me. Soft, firm, unmistakably not mine. I am here. I gasped, my entire body jolting as if something warm had touched my chest despite the freezing rain. Every hair on my skin stood up. My heart stuttered in shock, not fear, awareness. For years, I believed consciousness was nothing but neurons firing. But this, whatever it was, did not feel like neurons. It felt like being answered. The next wave hit the ship hard, but somehow I stayed anchored, my hand finding a metal bar I hadn't seen. My grip held firm, unnaturally firm, as if someone had guided my fingers to it. The storm didn't stop. The waves didn't shrink. But something inside me shifted. A sliver of calm pierced through the terror. A sense of presence, as if I was no longer alone in the storm. I don't know how long I held on to that railing. Minutes, hours. Time dissolved into a blur of roaring water, shaking steel, and desperate breaths. But I didn't die. I didn't get swept away. Somehow, unbelievably, I survived the worst night of my life. When the storm finally began to fade, the sky cracked open with the first light of dawn, a faint silver on the horizon. The sea calmed as if nothing had happened. The ship groaned, but stayed upright. The air tasted like metal and exhaustion. My body shook violently, not from cold, but from the realization settling into my bones. Something saved me. Something I couldn't measure, couldn't calculate, couldn't deny. I didn't call it God, not yet. I didn't have the courage for that. But for the first time in my life, the possibility existed, and it scared me more than the storm did. When dawn finally broke, the sea lay still, too still, as if the entire ocean were exhausted from the violence it had unleashed the night before. The sky was a pale silver. The ship groaned beneath our feet, battered but floating. Crew members moved slowly, quietly, each of us carrying the same shocked silence. We survived something we shouldn't have survived. My clothes were still heavy with salt water. My hands trembled. My ribs ached with every breath. But the real damage, The real change was somewhere deeper. I kept hearing it, the voice that wasn't mine, soft, certain, I am here. I told myself I imagined it, that it was adrenaline, trauma, brain deprivation. But every explanation I gave felt thin, like paper over a crack in a wall that was already falling apart. When we reached land 3 days later, I stepped off the ship and felt the ground with an unfamiliar weight, as if my feet were walking for the first time in a world I had misjudged all my life. Everything looked the same: cars, buildings, people, sunlight. Yet I was not the same. Something had been rearranged inside me, quietly but completely. At home, I sat alone for hours, staring at the floor, trying to rebuild the worldview that had shattered in the storm. I opened my laptop and typed near-death hallucinations into the search bar, only to close it again, because deep down, I knew that wasn't what happened. The storm didn't give me chaos. It gave me clarity, a clarity I had been running from for years without realizing it. 2 weeks later, I found myself walking toward a small mosque in the city. I don't know what I expected. Maybe to feel out of place. Maybe to confirm that whatever happened at sea was nothing but emotion. But instead, when I stepped inside, I felt something warm, quiet, familiar. The same presence I felt in the storm, but gentler. A man greeted me with a soft smile. He asked if I needed help. I opened my mouth, and before I could choose the words, the truth came out. I want to learn about Islam. He didn't judge. He didn't rush me. He simply invited me to sit, brought me water, and began explaining the basics. Who Allah is, what prayer means, why the Quran speaks the way it does. Every word felt like a puzzle piece sliding into place, pieces of a picture I had unknowingly been carrying inside me my whole life. At one point, he said, many people come to Islam through the mind, others through the heart, some through moments where they feel Allah saved them. My throat tightened. I looked down, unable to speak, because every word felt like it was describing me. I asked him, do I need to understand everything before I become Muslim? He smiled gently and shook his head. No one understands everything. You only need to believe that God is one and that He brought you here for a reason. A strange calm settled over me like the eye of a storm, but peaceful instead of terrifying. I felt tears burning at the edges of my eyes. Not sadness, recognition. In that quiet room, with nothing dramatic or cinematic happening around me, I said the words that reshaped my entire life. Ashhadu alla ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah. I testify that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is His messenger. As soon as I finished, something inside me loosened a knot I'd carried for decades. I exhaled in a way my body had never exhaled before. A release, a return, a homecoming. That night, lying in bed, I whispered a prayer for the first time as a Muslim. Nothing elaborate, just a simple, trembling gratitude. Thank you for saving me. And I remembered the storm, the impossible survival, the voice in the silence, the hand I felt guiding mine to the railing, the plea I whispered when I thought my life was ending. Everything connected in a way no equation ever had. This wasn't the death of logic. It was the beginning of truth. I entered the ocean as an atheist. I returned from it as a believer. Not because I was weak, but because I finally stopped pretending I was in control.